Okay, good morning. Very, very quickly, the capture rig that I've been using and have used for a long time is having some issues. So I'm in the process of building a new one. And hopefully, the way my capture rig at the moment is set up is everything feeds all my Raspberry Pis, like multiple Raspberry Pis, PS3, Xbox One, PlayStation 2, Wii, everything feeds into one PC, into the capture card, and then that goes out to my TV. So I literally capture as I'm playing, like I would play normally. And I like that. It's a nice setup. It's comfortable. Unfortunately, like I say, it's been having some issues. So I'm in the process of setting up a new small form factor PC. Going to have a capture card in there, and then everything, Raspberry Pis and all the consoles will feed into that. Today I decided just to stress test the old setup and see how long and how much I could put in just before it collapsed, because OBS loves to crash. So the thing it hates the most is the PS2. So I'm feeding the PS2 in. I'm feeding just some webcam that I found, an old webcam in, and an XLR mic with a little amp. Just throwing all that in and just seeing how far it will go before it falls over. So the quality isn't, what I'm trying to get is the quality isn't going to be great, but it's just a test. I needed a subject just to ramble on about while I'm playing. So the other day I picked up this. This is Warhammer 40,000 Fire Warrior for the PlayStation 2. It's a first-person shooter that I have never heard of. But I like first-person shooter PS2 games. The reason I've never heard of it is because I do not care in the slightest about Warhammer or Games Workshop or anything of those. I appreciate them for what they are, but it's just never has been my thing. But why did I buy this? Well, A, it was 50p, and B, on the back, it says... No, you can't read that. Okay, it says, starring the voice talents of Tom Baker and Brian Blessed. Now, I will quite happily spend 50p on anything with Brian Blessed in, because Brian Blessed is awesome.
That was the feta cheese in the black bread.
For those who don't know, Brian Blessed is a British actor who... His transcended generations. So my parents know Brian Blessed because he was in like Flash Gordon.
Gordon's alive?
And then I know Brian Blessed through Blackadder.
Man alive! What's wrong with big tomatoes?
And my children know Brian Blessed because he's Grampy Rabbit from Peppa Pig. Generations have, watched Brian Blessed, and they all know him for his booming voice. So I thought, Brian Blessed's in a video game, yes, and obviously, Tom Baker, Doctor Who. When I IMDb'd it, it's also got Tom Baker, Brian Blessed, who are noted on the back, but it's also got the voice talents of Burt Kwok, Peter Serafinowicz, and Sean Pertwee. So the cream of the crop of British actors are for some reason in here. So I'm assuming it's good, I'm hoping it's good. It says 91 from Play Magazine, 9 out of 10 from P2 Magazine, and 4 out of 5 from Maxim. If you remember, Lads Mags. So, yeah, I'm obviously going to play it for Brian Blessed. And I thought, well, seeing as I'm stress testing this rig that I've got at the moment, this capture rig that I've got at the moment, and I need a subject to ramble on about, I thought I'd ramble on about my weird Brian Blessed story. And, It's a twofer. It's my weirdest Brian Blessed story, but also the weirdest gig that I have ever been to, and how those two are somehow combined. So yeah, this is my weird Brian Blessed stroke weirdest gig story. All right, almost ready to go. Hang on. Coffee. Right. So, apologies for the sound. Apologies for the video. Like I say, I am building a new capture rig, and it's going to take a while, but when it's done, it'll be a lot, better than this. What am I playing? I'm playing on the pink PS2 with my new Chinese bootleg wireless PS2 controller. Just road testing it, only arrived yesterday, which I'm going to mod, hopefully. And what else? I'm using a really bad little webcam that I found, but the webcam is probably about the same age as this, so maybe it's kind of apt. Right, let's have a quick look. So, I'm just going to go into single player and normal, I guess. New game. Do I want to do training? No, I don't want to do training. Yes. So, what else? Oh, lastly, again, the new capture rig. So the new capture rig may, depending on if I get it right, you'll see what I actually see, because at the moment you're not. So what you're seeing here, that is very compressed, and it's also interlaced as well, because that's just what the capture rig does. It's a very cheap £35 Chinese capture card. What I'm seeing is in glorious 720p, and it looks way better. It's fluid, it's in 60 frames a second, providing the PlayStation game is, 60 Hz compatible. So, yeah, so hopefully the new capture rig will look way better. But this is just temporary. I'm just testing out, like road testing the controller, road testing OBS, seeing what it can handle. I need to get the mic a little bit closer, but you don't really want to see the top of my big bald ass head, so that's why.
Governor Severus, we have captured the leader as ordered. We are prepared
Right.
to withdraw.
Another thing to note, I know absolutely zero about the Warhammer Games Workshop series. All I know is that they're kind of religious zealots in the future that have swords that are chainsaws. Like chain swords, I guess. But yeah, apparently this game is okay. I mean, obviously they're going to put 91% on the box, but still. I did like those. I do like PlayStation 2 first-person shooters, especially the janky B tier ones. I really like them. Hopefully this can join the ranks of like Judge Dredd, and I'm in the middle of Deus Ex. They're amazing Deus Ex port on the PS2. Looks really good. A lot of loading screens, but who cares? Okay, mission overview. 0647 Kai. The Erythral Kovash is being held somewhere in this area, and you must locate him. Once we have this location, we will send in extraction teams, plural, to rescue him. This is your trial by fire, so you must do your best. Can do. Oh, hello. Again, I can see the stream over there, and it looks alright on there, but again, it's interlaced and the frame rate ain't great. This is beautiful. What I'm seeing is beautiful. 60 frames a second, 720, and it looks incredible for a PS2 game running on a PAL PS2. I mean, it's got an HDMI mod at the back, but that costs like £2 on eBay. Like if you got a PS2, buy one of those, whack in an HDMI cable, you're good. It looks great. PS2, it doesn't hold up very well, but hey, Burt Kwok!
Our forces are making good progress, but stay alert. Do not fail your trial. Prove your skills and honor the Firecast.
I will do that, Burt Kwok. I will try my best. My best isn't a lot, but I will try my best. I can't move. Lads, we're gonna... Oh! Leave him, you can't help him. We're still inside! We haven't Titanfalled yet. I say Titanfall, like this is obviously Aliens. Everyone loves Aliens, right? Still can't move. Burt Kwok, I'm stuck. Oh, I'm moving. Never mind, Burt. I'm off. That one didn't fare so well, did it? Yikes. So, I mean, when I do my recordings for my like YouTube and streaming and stuff, I actually play. Like, I don't sit at a desk, you know what I mean, with headphones on and a big... I actually sit on my sofa with, my telly and this microphone is basically pushed up to my face. I like to play how I play all the time. Like when I stream or record or stuff like that. Even when I capture footage from like my greatest, games of the year or whatever. So this doesn't look too bad actually. It's a bit Killzone-y, isn't it? Looks alright though. Nice skybox. So yeah, so I don't actually. Ooh, that's an echo. Yo, smoke. God damn, there's a lot of debris. So yeah, what I normally do is sit down. Now the reason I'm sitting slightly ahead of my sofa today is because of this new capture rig I'm building. The microphone XLR cable is a little bit on the short side, so I'm having to sit about, I don't know, like half a metre in front of my sofa. But yeah, normally I'll just play there. If I'm feeling really lazy, I lie down, record and capture footage while I'm lying down. Right, so why am I playing this? Well, like I said at the beginning, I'm playing this because I bought it for 50p, because on the back it said it had the voice talent of Brian Blessed. And let's face it, who doesn't like Brian Blessed? Like, what is there to not like about Brian Blessed? If you've got a phobia of beards, maybe. So, my weird Brian Blessed story is actually... Was I supposed to collect that? Because it just blew up right in my face. Oh, I picked up something else. How do I switch weapons? Okay. So, my strange Brian Blessed story is also another one of my weird stories. It's the story of the strangest gig that I've ever been to. And I've been to, right, so for context, I have been to a lot of gigs, right? When it was cheaper, way cheaper than it is now, we were going almost weekly at one point. Just hear of a band, go and see him. Oh, there's this guy playing, go and see him. Like, it didn't really matter where. Mostly places like the Astoria or the Underworld or the Mean Fiddler. Rest in peace, Astoria. So yeah, so when was it? It was in 2013, I think it was, right? So 2013, I'm at work, and I get a call from my friend, and she says, "I've got tickets for this gig. Do you want them?" I'm like, "Okay. What's up?" She goes, "Oh, something's come up. I can't go." I'm like, "Oh, okay. How much do you want for them?" She goes, "Oh, nothing. It's free." I'm like, "Sure?" She's like, yeah. It's free because I won them on a magazine, which isn't uncommon. You can win, gig tickets in magazines and stuff. So I'm like, "Oh, cool. What is it?" She went, "It's an award show." And I'm like, okay. What kind of award show? She's like, "Oh, it's the Metal Hammer Golden Gods Award." I'm like, "Oh, cool." And she ended that sentence by saying, "Oh, and Motorhead are closing the show." I'm like, at that point, I'm like, "Girl, you have just rung my bell. Yes, please. I will quite happily take those tickets off you for free to go and see Motorhead. Yes." Like, thank you very much. And she did. She came through. She sent me the tickets. I'm like, oh, really did me a solid here. So, for those sort of unaware, the Metal Hammer Golden Gods is like it's not like a big award ceremony. It's a very low-key ceremony, usually held in small little clubs or like venues that play to, metal or rock or, whatnot. And it's like your standard award ceremony, except way more alcohol is involved, both on the part of the people viewing, like the audience members, and also the people collecting awards and stuff like that. Think back to like what Smash Hits and the Brits used to be way back in the sort of like early to mid 90s, like that alcohol-fueled insanity, like that. So, but it still happens. So this year, the 2013 Golden Gods Awards, we get there and it's being held in a fairly new venue at the time called the Indigo, which is inside the O2. So if you've ever been to the O2, if you live in London, never been to the O2, why is that guy not showing on my... Oh man, he got blew up. Yeah, let's smoke that. Oh wait, don't let him leave. Did Burt Kwok say don't let him get out of it? Oh man, I'm gonna foul. Come back, I've got to shoot you because Burt Kwok told me to. Oh, there you go. So, everything's blown up. Did I miss something back here? I don't know. So yeah, the 2013 Golden Gods. The Golden Gods, like I say, is very, very, very weird. The 2013 one, no exception. Now what happens is you have various like standard awards, like Best Album, Best Newcomer, stuff like that. Then you have a load of like weird awards as well.
So we get there, we're in the O2, and because it's an award ceremony and not a gig, not everyone there is there to see the same person. So normally when you go to a gig, you hang out outside, you just chat to the people in the queue, you're normally in the queue for a while, and you get to know people, hang out, and it's generally speaking a cool time with, similar, like-minded, because you're all there for the same match. This was weird, because everyone there was there for different, bands or almost different genres as well. Because remember, you got like black metal, death metal, you've got hard rock, you've got, standard heavy metal, you've got, everyone was there, and everyone was like really, cool and hanging out, and you got to meet maybe, people that you wouldn't normally meet standing outside. It was a really, really cool time. So we get inside, and the compere or MC, depending on how you view it for an award ceremony, was Devin Townsend. Now, Devin Townsend, for those that have never heard of him, he's he's a phenomenal guitar player for a start, songwriter. But he also used to, he was part of, he plays at the minute as a solo artist. But he also played for like the Devin Townsend project, which again was kind of like a solo project. Jesus Christ, what is that? Has he got a sword that's a chainsaw? I knew that they had them in this universe. So Devin Townsend, phenomenal guitarist, but also incredibly funny, and the perfect person to kind of chaperone this award ceremony, because not only are you trying to keep a room full of, and the Indigo can hold a couple of hundred people, so you're trying to entertain a couple of hundred very drunk people at this point, and you also have to sort of like manage the award collectees, who can be a bit of a handful because most of them had a skinful. So that night, collecting award, there were members of Black Sabbath, I think there was members of Guns, I think Duff McKagan was there, I know Dream Theater was there, there were loads of people collecting awards, big names. And obviously like up and coming bands as well, like bands that are like big now, they were there as well. As well as people on stage, there were people in the crowd, people that I had paid money to see their bands on stage were in the pit with us, which was an awesome thing. So, like, that sticks out in my mind as a really awesome moment from this gig. But then it takes a weird turn. So, like I say, they have the standard awards for like album of the year, and they have like best newcomer, stuff like that. Then they have these sort of like weird awards for, how do I change weapons? There you go. Do I need that? No. Like best shredder. Best shredder is like the guy that year that displayed the most technical prowess, like shredding, which is nice. It's like a cool little award, and they go on to do different little awards like that, like it's not silly awards, because they if you win an award, an award's an award. Good for you. But yeah, they're not like awards that you would expect. So then comes, and this is the thing, then comes the Spirit of Metal Award. Now, the Spirit of Metal Award doesn't really mean anything. It's the person who encapsulates heavy metal on any aspect, on any level, right? This year, the Spirit of Heavy Metal Award was being presented to Brian Blessed. Now, obviously no one knew this coming in, because I don't think I knew any of the nominees. All I knew is that Motorhead were closing the show. That's all I knew going in. And by the look of the people in there, no one knew that Brian Blessed was getting the Spirit of Metal Award. So, on he comes, right, and remember, Devin Townsend is hosting this, right? So, what he has to do is kind of present the award, tell a few jokes, and then get him off the stage as quick as possible, right? So, come on, ha ha ha, here's your award. You want to say a few words? Yeah, alright, off you go. Coming on, we gotta go. Brian Blessed doesn't do we have to go. He also doesn't do we need to wrap this up. So, we're in a room full of people. I'm going to pause this. We're in a room full of people, and the Spirit of Metal Award, Devin Townsend's on stage, and the Spirit of Metal Award goes to Brian Blessed. On he comes, right? Bold as anything, doing his bit. Bold as, walks in, leans into the microphone, and screams Gordon's alive, right? That was, again, this all happened within the space of about 30 seconds, so I haven't really had time to process it yet. The other thing to remember is that this is after I'd quit drinking, so I actually I know this happened. Can't be sure about the other gigs where weird stuff's happened, but I know this happened, right? So he comes in, leans into the microphone, and screams at the top of his lungs, "Gordon's alive," right? You have never seen a room full of people with leather and spikes and face makeup, old, young, because again, they're all there for different bands and different genres, right? So you got black metal, death metal, all these people, all these audience members, all these band members, people in, people from the bands in the audience, everyone lose their collective minds as quick or as long as when Brian Blessed comes on stage and screams "Gordon's alive" into a microphone. The place lit up, right? The other thing to remember is this was unfortunately it was either the year or the year after Jeff Hanneman of Slayer had unfortunately passed away. He had been ill for a while, and had died. So when they did their in memoriam section before, they had their in the memoriam, Jeff Hanneman's picture come. I mean, they obviously had other people die, but when Jeff Hanneman's picture came on there, the place erupted for a good 2-3 minutes of people like screaming Slayer as loud as they could, and throwing beer and everything. Like the place, it was like a proper tribute to Jeff Hanneman, one of the great. I mean, Kerry King gets all the credit, but Jeff wrote those riffs. Like all those Slayer riffs, they were Jeff. So anyway, after that, then Brian Blessed comes out, and that was even louder than the Jeff Hanneman tribute, right? It was louder than that. So he comes out and he's doing his and he didn't really know why they were giving it to him, as well as us not really knowing why they were giving him an award for the spirit of heavy metal. We think it's because he's loud, and that's kind of his thing. His thing is being loud, like really loud. So that's fine. But even though he, clearly didn't know why he was there or why he was giving an award, he doesn't phone it in, ever. Like, when you see Brian Blessed doing he's stuck. That dude is not moving. When you see Brian Blessed doing his Brian Blessed bit, I don't think that's an act. You know what I mean? He didn't phone it in that day, or if he did, he's a very, very well-trained actor. Like, the best. Because he seemed to genuinely enjoy being on stage, and he had 200 heavy metal just in the palm of his hand. He was doing his bits, but everyone was there. Everyone listened to every single word that man said. Everyone laughed, everyone, and even Devin Townsend at this point, there's no point trying to, wrap up Brian Blessed. He just let him go. Like, he just let him go. So, during all of this, right, again, remembering that there is a man who is, at this point, well into his 70s, on stage, doing his grand thespian bit to a room full of heavy metal people. Like, if that's not strange enough for me, and I know who he is. The guy that I'm with is Puerto Rican, but spent most of his life in the States before moving to the UK. I've been friends for a long time. He's been here for a long time. But try and imagine what's happening from his perspective. His perspective of a man who has no idea who Brian Blessed is, but all of a sudden, there is this bellowing man on stage during one of the, heaviest, award ceremonies that there is. It's a very, very strange idea. And then me having to explain who Brian Blessed is, when really Brian Blessed is famous for one thing, like being loud. Like that's why. Because he's like, why are we giving him an award? Because he shouts? What does he shout? Gordon's alive? From Flash Gordon in the 70s? Like, that's it? But even he was like down with it. Even he was like, oh, okay, fair enough. So anyway, that was strange. And then the hardest bit after that wasn't the fact that, you know, that happened. And it was great. I mean, Motorhead closed the show. Motorhead brought their, like, small rig. So a Motorhead small rig is, you know, what? Two Marshall bass amps, 2 Marshall guitar amps, a couple of heads. It was so loud. Like, everything you've heard about Motorhead live gigs is true. It was so loud. We were in a room full of a couple of hundred people. That noise could have hit the back of Wembley. It was ridiculously loud. Great show though. Motorhead absolutely killed. So I get home and I'm talking to my wife. She was like, "How was it?" I'm like, "Em, it was great. Absolutely great." She was like, "Cool. You know, what? You know, who played?" I'm like, "Motorhead closed the show. They absolutely slayed. It was awesome. There, you know, members of Black Sabbath were there. There were other guys there. You know, Dream Theater played. That was great. Got a load of freebies. That was awesome. You know, from, you know, who says no to freebies? Oh, and also Brian Blessed was there." She's like, "Who?" I'm like, Brian Blessed. He's in Blackadder and whatnot." And she was like, "Okay, was he comparing?" I'm like, No. They gave him an award. For what? Shouting. Like, that's what he does, I guess. He just shouts. Oh, okay. Why? I'm like, I don't know. But it was great. Like, you know what I mean? The other thing, again, you got to remember that, again, by this point I had quit drinking, so I know this happened. In the audience that night, as well as, like, I think there was a good mix of people. There was, like, people who were into different genres, there were different age ranges, like, really, you know, there were kids, and there was, like, people there to see Motorhead, so they're, like, old rockers as well. It was really, really cool. But there, in the audience, there were 2 guys dressed as bananas, like, in full banana suits. So I always, when I was telling her, I was always like, "Oh yeah, there was a couple of guys dressed as bananas as well." She was like, "So you went to a heavy metal show, you saw a 70-year-old Shakespearean actor, and there were 2 guys dressed as bananas?" I'm like, that's what happened. Oh, okay. So many years later, the O2 has this, god damn, the frame rate just died. So many years later, the O2 has this new attraction, shall we say, where you can James Bond it up the side of the dome. So basically, you queue up, and then you go into this small little kiosk, and then from the kiosk you walk up and over the O2. It is a giant dome, right? So you walk up and over on this like harness with these steps on one side and then a slope across the top. Not really my thing. I'm not down with heights. Anyway, they had like this massive temporary hoarding, which is, I don't know, maybe, how tall would it be? It's like a standard building site hoarding. So maybe like, I don't know, 10 feet, and it goes on for ages. And then rather than have it like a stock colour, they put all this like blown up photography on the side. So I'm sitting there, this is so many years later, this may be like 2018 at this point, so a long while after. There's this giant hoarding on the outside that they've blown up all of these photographs for, and some of these photographs on the outside are like big, wide crowd shots taken from the stage. So I'm looking, I'm just sitting there waiting, I think it was I'm waiting for my daughter, so I'm sitting there waiting for her. And before she turns up, I'm like, I know that. There's a massive, wide crowd shot, and in the middle of the crowd are 2 guys dressed as bananas. I'm like, oh my god, I was there that night. I remember that. And, like, my wife's like, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "Do you remember that metal award show that I went to and Brian Blessed turned up and screamed at everyone and everyone lost their minds?" She's like, "Yeah." I'm like, I was there that night. That's that night. So I'm looking, I get close to this hoarding, and this thing is massive. It's, you know, at least 10 feet tall and maybe like 20 feet wide. There I am, at the back of this crowd, sort of doing this. Like, looking super confused at the stage, and a lot of other people, and my mates beside me are sort of going, And it must be when Brian Blessed turned up, because that's the only time I remember looking super confused, but at the same time kind of happy, like, okay, yep, sure, why not? So for years, there's been this image on the side of me looking super confused, which I never was there, which I never knew was there. But yeah, that is to date not only like one of the weirdest gigs that I've ever been to, but also one of the best. Like, it might have been one of the most memorable and one of the strangest, you know, gigs for me and my mate as well. And we, like I say, we went to a lot of gigs. Like recently, we just, like at the end of, was it the end of last year or was it last summer? We went and saw the Wu-Tang in, where was it? It was in Wembley. Which was great, you know what I mean? And you come away and you think, oh yeah, man, I saw like everyone that I grew up listening to and whatnot. But damn, that awards ceremony where Brian Blessed turned up and screamed and had like all these metalheads eating out the palm of his hand. That's gonna be a hard one to forget. Like, of all the gigs that I've been to after, that's gonna be a hard one to forget. So yeah, that was that. Now, conversely, something that's not gonna be hard to forget is this goddamn game. This is find a button. Okay, can do Burquois. This, I don't know if this opens up later to being a good game, but at the minute it's kind of not Killzone. The game. Do I just run in here? Hello. I'm shooting a lot of the very same model while Burquois is telling me to find a button. Not the Brian Blessed experience I was hoping for, but maybe it turns up later. Like, I can imagine him doing his bit in the... hopefully he's in the giant power... You know what? Hopefully he's in the giant power armor, and the mask is at the top, and the beard is just coming out the bottom. That's what I'm hoping for. But yeah, I thought I'd just use this opportunity to set up this kind of temporary, you know, capture rig, test it out, see if it works, see how well it works really, and use it as an opportunity. Damn, that guy got blown up. Use it as an opportunity to talk about a weird gig that I went to, where we gave, where a magazine gave Brian Blessed a heavy metal award in the same, you know, in the same year as we were giving Black Sabbath an award. It's very, very strange. All right, cool. So I'm going to keep playing this and see if it opens up and hopefully it gets better. I don't know. But yeah, that's it. Peace.